Hi everybody, it's Courtney from Schneider's Driver Recruiting. I'm joined by special guests today, Sally and Ernest. They're part of our military team here in our recruiting department. So we're going to just talk to them a little bit today about kind of the background as to what they did in the service prior to coming on board to Schneider, and a couple of different ways that they talk to drivers who are prior military, currently in the reserves, and just the different opportunities and things that we offer here at Schneider. So I'll kick it off first to Sally. Tell us a little bit about your background in the service and how that kind of led into a career with Schneider.
Yeah, so I joined the military because I really wanted to, give back, of course, to the community and also the country, and also follow in some of my people that I looked up to, their footsteps that were in my family. I have a really strong history of that there, and so I joined the Wisconsin Army National Guard as a truck driver in 88 Mike,
Awesome.
which really kind of goes hand in hand with this.
Yeah.
After a while, I did start I worked at a different company, and through there I learned that unfortunately the company really wasn't very military friendly. And of course with the National Guard and the Reserves, you have a few weekends a month that you go to, and in the summer and anytime there's natural disasters or like hurricanes, we got called to do that. Well, unfortunately, I got help. I was called to help down with the hurricanes that were down in Florida, Hurricane Irma and Harvey at the time, and it was a big deal getting off for that and trying to explain to them.
They gave you kind of like a hard time to get off to go help.
Yes. And every time I was leaving and they were like trying to get me to do things, I'm like, I can't focus on that right now. That's not what my mission is. That's not what I'm supposed to be doing here. So at that point, I started to look and try to find a different company that, of course, was very military friendly and had a really good culture as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I found Schneider. I had lots of different people that I knew who worked here and said really good things. And when I was starting to look into Schneider, I saw a lot of the different military programs that they have and how they are very ingrained into that. Even like they have different awards. Ingus gave their award that they give to employers every year is actually called the Al Schneider Memorial Award or something of that sort.
Yeah.
And it just really goes to show that they do support their military, and that's why I came on board to Schneider. And
You've been on board for
2 years now.
2 years now?
A little over 2 years, yeah. And it's been fantastic ever since. I'm really sad that I decided not to come over sooner, really. I really wish I would have started my career sooner.
Awesome, that's great to hear. And I know right on your coattails, you came on board as well. Tell us a little bit about your background before coming on board.
Okay, so I spent 24 years in the Army infantry, ended up retiring as a first sergeant. I went to school after that in 2014 and then graduated in 2018, and that's when my wife wanted to move up here to Green Bay because she has family here.
From where did you come
right here in Green Bay, and she's from the UP.
Okay.
She's from Rock, right in the middle of M35. It's in the middle of nowhere. But she wanted to come up here. She said she followed me for all those years. I was going to follow her.
Absolutely.
So I did, and when I was looking for a job, I went on Indeed and some other things, and Schneider was looking for a military recruiter and a military recruiting assistant, and I just saw the word military and said, okay. And I was hired 10 days after Sally, and we've been working together for a little bit over 2 years now. And it's been great. Yeah, it's been great.
Awesome. Well, I'm glad to hear it. And kind of backstory, we're all on the same team in the department. So I definitely remember each of you coming on board and working with the different CDL holders that we have. Not only those that are previous military, but in the service as well, or in the reserves, as well too. And just they love hearing somebody on the phone that is coming from the same situation, same background too. So I really enjoy hearing you talk on the phone, essentially. So if somebody is out there that's a current CDL holder, either prior military or currently in the military, I guess what would be, I think you get a lot of times too, they're nervous about what's the next step after coming out, to join the quote unquote civilian world. So what would you tell them to kind of ease their mind?
I would tell them it's easier than going to basic. It's not as nerve-wracking. It's shorter. The most you'll have to do is, after you get your CDL, is go to 18-day orientation. It's just like PowerPoint. You're going to learn a lot of electronics. You're going to learn about the trucks, that you're gonna be driving. And other than that, there's no one yelling at you. It's easy to learn, you get fed, probably better food than the chow hall. And you're gonna start getting paid pretty good
Right.
money right after you are done with orientation.
Absolutely, awesome. What about you, Sally?
With being a truck driver and having the past experience in the military, there's so many things that correlate to making you so successful in this industry that, you don't have to worry about anything because you already learned it in your past. Now you're just using those skills in just a different way. And you are always able to, you'll do fine. It's just something, I don't know how to say it really well, but there's just, you've already learned those skills in the past with being very mission oriented. So getting that load from A to B, you can stay cool and calm under pressure and, adjust fire if need be. If something happens, like there's an accident up front and you need to go a different route, you don't freeze, you can go around that and, think outside the box.
Right.
And just also with the situational awareness too, you're going to be able to maintain those safety standards that Schneider does have set up and make sure that you're safe out on the road as well as others, and that others are able to get back home safely to their family.
Awesome, and I wanted to kind of touch too, you mentioned you're at 88, Mike, so for those that aren't in the military, I wasn't, so I had to learn a whole different type of jargon when I came on board too, a whole different language. So at 88, Mike, truck driver, so I guess what was the biggest transition from truck driver in the military to, obviously you're not driving at Schneider, but
Yeah.
is there, for those coming on board, is there a huge difference between that military to civilian, or is it something that's a little bit of an easier transition?
One thing I'm constantly explaining to, not constantly, but I do explain to some drivers is that there is a little bit differences because with the military trucks, they're not governed by the DOT. There's a lot of different regulations that you learn about, and you learn about them at truck driving school and orientation to maintain, those safety standards and everything. But the big thing that is different really is just, your hours of service, having to make sure you're following those, and also using the e-logs.
Right.
And just a different kind of feel to it. The trucks that we have are a lot less bouncy. You will not like hit your forehead to the roof of the car. The truck.
A lot more headroom.
Oh my gosh. I don't even know how to explain to you how bad they were for me. Like, you're just going up. It's like a roller coaster. It really is in some of those trucks. Not the Schneider trucks, so they're good.
The military trucks,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Well, and I wanted to kind of touch base on too, so we're talking about transitioning from, military to civilian. I know you talk a lot with drivers about going to different truck driving schools and kind of, or if they don't necessarily need to go to school, and how they can get waivers. Can you kind of touch on that a little bit and kind of what's the best, is there a best way or is there just different
So
options?
if there's an active duty soldier getting ready to ETS or retired, usually they're gonna have some kind of terminal leave saved up. So that could be a month, could be up to 60 days. I recommend to them first find out what your base is offering. Sometimes they offer truck driving school right there.
Right on the base?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I didn't know that.
Or there's truck driving schools that are near them.
Right.
So if they have time to do it on terminal leave, I recommend doing it that way. That way you'll never have a break in a paycheck. Or if they're already out and at home, then I'll help them find a truck driving school near them, whether it's VOC rehab, post 9/11 GI Bill, or state and federal grants.
Right, absolutely. And I want to touch on that a little bit more too. We talked about, and we offer to anybody that has those post 9/11 GI Bill benefits, how much can they use, or does it matter? Can you kind of touch base on
For
that
the
one?
military apprenticeship program?
Sure, yeah, let's go into
Okay,
that.
so the military apprenticeship program, it's not on the job training. Basically, after you get your CDL and you start driving for us, you'll be allowed to get a housing allowance for the first year driving for us. Now, there is a monthly, it takes out 12 months of your post 9/11 GI Bill, but it is extra money and it's tax-free.
On top of your
On top of whatever you make as a truck driver.
Right, absolutely. And I try to tell people that have those benefits too, it's something that, so if you don't have a spouse, sibling, or a child, to pass those on to, then we can definitely, who doesn't want, was it $1,300 or so a month?
It's
It's a little over
1431.
Oh,
$1,400,
gosh,
yeah.
even higher than that. Well,
Yeah. And it's a great way to use your benefits. There's so many people who, I know for me, I have like 2 years of mine left, and I don't know if I plan to go back to school, and I can't pass them off anymore because I'm now out of the military. So if you know, unless having them go to waste, you can go in this route to use them up and not just have them sit there. You know, you join the military, use all the benefits you have.
Right.
You know, you made that sacrifice. It's, you know, get as much out of it as you can.
Right, absolutely. And we have a couple different questions that are coming in. Continue to ask those questions. We'd love to get those answers. Patty's asking us if you wasn't a truck driver in the military, can I still get military credit? This is a fantastic question, and I'll let you kind of dabble on that because you talk about military pay quite a bit with your drivers.
Yeah, so the military pay credit, what that is someone who has separated within the last 12 months are the people who are going to be eligible for that. So if you were a cook, if you were in HR, whatever your job was or MOS was in the military, you're going to be able to get that credit if you had separated within the last 12 months. Now, if you were a truck driver, or a mechanic, an engineer, certain MOSs or certain jobs are going to get you a higher pay credit. And depending on what those were, we'll talk more about that during the interview process, but certain MOSs are going to get you a higher pay credit. But blanket statement, if you got it in the last 12 months, you're going to be able to get a pay credit.
Awesome, awesome. And you do actually have a shout out here, Sally. I don't know if you want to say hi to him or not.
Oh.
You can say hi to him.
Yeah, so one of the people that I had recruited when I first started, actually, Joseph Morning, I guess he's watching. I hear great things about him. Everybody likes seeing him on the Snap or on the Facebook Live.
Yeah.
So everyone has great things to say about you, and we're talking about you actually beforehand, and we're glad to see your progression with Schneider and that you're now a training engineer. That's so awesome to see. That's
right.
Fantastic.
And another great call out to that. So Joseph, who's watching, is Sally hired him, and he's still driving for us. Part of our military team that's always kind of great, asking all these great questions, commenting on posts, and is now was driving for a while and is now trained to be a trainer, which is awesome. So that's another thing too, that when you come on board, there's opportunities to continue to grow and progress. And we find anytime I get somebody on the phone that is prior military or currently in the reserves, I do a little fist pump because they're going to be a good candidate, hard worker, and somebody that is going to be here for the long haul, essentially. So. And
I always mention that to the military drivers that I speak to, is because they're ambitious. Mm-hmm. Once you start driving for us and you like it, there's other opportunities like owner operator after a year, depending on where you are, training engineer, even office jobs are available.
Yeah, absolutely.
We even had someone who we were talking to while they were in South Korea, and he came back to, I think it was like Alabama, it's somewhere down south. I can't remember the state, unfortunately, but it's Anthony if you're watching as well. So he was in Green Bay doing some training, and he called me up, and I remember his phone number, and I said, "Hi, Anthony, how's it going?" And he's like, "Well, I'm just down the hallway. Can I say hi?" And so me and Ernest came back and said hi, and it was just really great to see him in person. And then he gives us updates once in a while. He just did get his truck. He had his year experience as an over-the-road driver, and now he's an owner-operator. So it's just fantastic to see these success stories and see where people have come from and that transition that they made from active duty or the military. They were very successful, and so many people can do it. It's not something to be scared about at all.
And that's something I have to call it to the two of you as well too. A lot of times people, I've heard it on the phone before, well, I talked to this recruiter and never heard from them again, and it just was kind of impersonal. But you create these relationships to kind of ease that transition. Both of you do from applying or just getting regular information to coming on board and driving.
We have the same background as all these veterans. We can relate, even if it's down to the level of basic training. We know how that feels. So we have something to talk about, even if it's not just truck driving.
Right, absolutely. Whether, you followed up family to a different state, and we can help you out. I know you get a lot of people that are, transferring from one state to the other, or relocating after they get out of the service too, so you help them with that too. So a lot of different opportunities, no matter where they live.
Yeah, it's one of those things where we just really understand the scenario, and it's just really nice to talk to someone and be able to say what you mean and not have to explain again. The military is a different language, just like with Schneider, there's some different languages with different acronyms, and you don't need to explain what terminal leave is or what an MOS is or ETS or any of that. It's one of those things, we just understand it, and we know that sometimes those dates can get pushed back, and it's nice to just be with someone who knows what you're talking about and is flexible with that.
Right, absolutely. So a lot of different questions are coming in. Andrew, what transfers for military credit? So in terms of, Andrew, I assume you're asking your MOS for credit? We're gonna assume that's what you're looking for.
Yeah.
If so, Sally kind of tapped on it a little bit, but with different driving MOSs, so that 88 Mike,
12 November,
Yep.
91 Bravo, 92 Fox, Motor Chi, Transport in the Marines. There's certain ones in the Air Force too, which I do apologize, I'm not super familiar with. I have to look at that usually at a case-by-case basis and look at that, but it's like 2TX1, something like that.
sure.
But
Yeah.
yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
But so if you're one of those jobs, then you can, get the higher pay credit. If you were anything else, again, like a dog handler, a cook, HR, small arms repair, infantry,
Mhm.
you're gonna get still a pay credit if you separate within the last 12 months. It's just gonna be at the 1 year aspect. So you'll get paid like you've been driving for 1 year, which is usually as a new driver, that first year you have 3 to 4 pay increases.
Yeah.
So you're still starting at a really great rate.
Absolutely.
And Patty, if you have the post 9/11, you can still do the military apprenticeship program and get that extra money per month for the first year.
100%. Yeah, Patty had asked if she can still get credit if it's been more than 12 months from separation, so great answer to that. If you have those 9/11 benefits, we can offer that to you as well. Rick is asking, how soon before I get out of the military can I apply to Schneider? That's a great question. I'll let you take that one.
Well, Rick, I've had people who are still in the military and they still have a year left, and that's how Anthony was when he called from South Korea. We just help figure out what we're gonna do. We talk through it because your dates are probably gonna change, your terminal dates, all those things are gonna change. So you can either give me a call or do a military general profile, and I'll reach out to you and we can figure out. But usually it's about 2 months before you know for a fact you'll be out of the military. So that way we can organize you getting your CDL, start figuring out orientation and things like that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, what we want to do is we want to create a plan. So I was talking to someone today, he knew he was starting terminal leave around Thanksgiving, and so I talked to him, talked about how he wanted to get his Class A license, went over those different opportunities and options for him, and just so he had a plan of how to get his license as well. And then now we're just going to be doing about once a month check-ins until it gets to be about November, and we're going to amp it up as it gets closer and we have that date solid, so that we can start, to make that transition for him the easiest possible, and that we can, be on top of everything.
Yeah, and again, it's about creating that connection. So you mentioned, Thanksgiving time. Sally had been out of the office that one day, and somebody called in and looked at her notes, and she'd been working with them for like 3 months, and I thought, oh my goodness, this is wild. But that's just the connection that they make when you're chatting with one of our military recruiters as well too. So great questions are coming in. And Roy also asked, what if it's been 30 years since I drove a big rig? Am I still an experienced driver? That's a good question, and this is for not only military drivers, but any driver that applies to Schneider. We'll credit any tractor trailer driving experience you've had in the last 10 years. So if you've had anything in the last 10 years, then we can credit that to you. If it's been over 30 years, you would be considered a new driver.
Yeah, we still want to get you to that new thing of that inexperienced orientation, because there's so many different rules and regulations that have been put in place.
Yeah.
And we want to make sure that you're on top of those. You know how to use the e-logs. I think
E-logs.
the e-logs are just put in place, mandated like
Was it 2 years ago now?
I think. Yeah. So we want to, we want to make sure that you're still on top of that, and that you're going to be, following the rules of the road while you're out there again.
Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned before filling out a general profile. How would somebody do that?
Okay, so you can go on SchneiderJobs.com. If you scroll over to truck driver, the menu will drop down, and military will be one of the labels. Just click on there. It'll tell you everything about the military apprenticeship program, pay credit, and it'll have a link to the military general profile. Basically, it's just name, address, zip code, and I can figure out where you are. But main thing, I can make a voice contact with you and figure out what your plans are, and then see what I can help you out with.
Absolutely, which is really nice. Then you don't have to, if you're still just looking for information and aren't sure about filling out an application yet, that general profile at least gets you in contact with Ernest, that he can reach out, give you a little bit more information, and see if there's any other questions that you may have. So Is there anything else that the two of you wanted to add today?
I wanted to add just two more things maybe. It's regarding people who are currently in the reserves or National Guard who are looking into being drivers.
Mhm.
So a lot of our, with the National Guard, of course, and the reserves, you do have that one weekend a month that you have to go out to complete your obligation.
Mhm.
And, some of our jobs, they are getting home every other weekend and everything. So what does that look like? Does that mean if I'm in the military, I'm going to have one weekend at home and one weekend at drill, and that's not great, right?
Right.
So, we want to just make sure that when I see someone that's currently in the military like that, I do let them know that, hey, you're going to come back from your drill time, you're still going to get your home time because you're going to still want to rest and, see your family. We want to make sure that you're able to take care of that part of, have that background because your family is, of course, your support system. We want to make sure that that family system is still strong.
Mhm.
The other thing is our differential pay too that I want to touch on. So what the differential pay is if you are currently in the military as a National Guard reservist and say you get pulled for active duty and you're on those orders for more than 30 days, whether it be for state active duty or for deployment, we will offer the differential pay to you. This is something that you do after the recruiting process and you're driving.
Mhm.
But it's going to basically supplement your pay in case you make less in the military than you would in driving. So basically they'll say, our payroll department will say you average about $100 a day here with Schneider, but in the military only like $50 a day. We'll cover that additional $50 if again you're on those active duty orders
Oh,
for
I
more
didn't
than
know
30 days.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's a phenomenal thing there because we don't want you missing out on anything because you're deployed or on those
Missing out on
orders.
paychecks or anything
Yeah,
like that.
yeah, we want to make sure that you're still taken care of. And the nice thing too is it's only your base pay rate. So if you're on hazardous duty pay, so it's like a pay that you get a higher amount if
Right.
you're deployed, or like housing allowances and your BAH, it does not account for that at all.
Mhm.
It's only that base pay rate. So it's a great way to supplement your income if anything like that does happen.
Yeah, awesome. And I'm glad that you touched on the time at home and stuff. You had mentioned at your previous job, it was a nightmare trying to get
Oh, yeah.
home for and trying to get your drill weekends. And I get that question every now and then too, like, am I going to be home for drill? Absolutely, absolutely. We will make sure that you are home for that. So that's nothing to ever worry about. Ernest, anything else?
No, ma'am.
No, I like that. Perfect. Well, thank you very much for being here. You guys had a lot of awesome questions. You can continue to ask those questions in the comments too. We can answer those after we go off today. But give us a call too, 866-VETS-CDL. So VETS CDL. And you can talk to this guy right here a little bit more about transitioning. And if you have any other questions too, check out SchneiderJobs.com in the military tab. We hope to chat with you guys soon. Thanks.
Bye.